Let me introduce you to Bug Alert. This was a quirky British Muppet-style TV series produced for GMTV in the late 1990s. It features a group of bugs living in a human's house, specifically the kitchen. Hygiene issues right off the bat, but it's okay, the humans never find out that there are weird talking insects in their house. I only ever watched the first season, so I'm going to consult Wikipedia for character descriptions. So in this TV series, we have Grub Bug, the father and chef of the bug family. We have Mystic Mug Bug, the psychic of the family. There's Doodle Bug, a sadistic event. Wait, what? A sadist? A fucking sadist in a children's puppet TV series?
Bug Alert!
Anyway, there's also Plug Bug, a cowardly bug obsessed with the kitchen sink. Apparently he's best friends with Doodle Bug, the sadistic one. Because that makes sense. There's a couple of stoner bugs that have the stupidest laugh in existence. And then there's Buggins, an irritating orange worm that seems to get on the nerves of Doodlebug and Plugbug to the point of them abusing him to keep him in line. Violence in a TV series for the under 5s. No, seriously, the box says for ages 1 to 5. How on earth was this show allowed on the air? So the best way I can describe this show is British Muppets combined with Teletubby-style learning segments and... you know what, I don't know. This one is incredibly hard to describe. It's probably the strangest TV show I ever watched when I was younger. I watched a lot of weird shit when I was young, but this one takes the cake. And of course, there were home video releases. And of course, I was stupid enough to like the show enough to want one. And of course, my mother ended up buying me one! What we have here is Bug Alert. I cannot read that. The box is wrecked beyond belief. Oh, here we go. Bug Alert. Numbers, Colors and Animals. The first video for the series, released in 1997. Okay, let's see how it goes. Hey, remember how I said this was hard to describe? Well, I'm just gonna settle for Muppets on acid. Watching this was like coming off a really bad LSD trip. I had a similar reaction to this when Pokemon Sun and Moon were announced, and images of a new version of a Pokemon called Muck were leaked. Just look at this thing! This is a literal LSD trip in a video game. That's how I felt watching Bug Alert for the first time in over 15 years. Sesame Street may have its place in history, as do the Muppets, but this TV series is not made for adults. You watch it as a kid, and then you come back to it in 20 years, and oh my god, it will hurt your brain. And yet, all it is a compilation of 3 episodes from the first season using Mystic Mugbug as a transitional storyteller. Apparently, he's able to watch TV on his crystal ball. So do I recommend Bug Alert? Yes, if you want a severe headache. It's dreadful otherwise. It's not even worth talking about the video content. If you care enough after this, check it out. All 3 episodes are on YouTube. Right now, I just need to shove it back in here and never look at it again. Right at the back, where it belongs. This calls for a brain pleaser. And I think I know just what I need.
Spout, handle, lid of metal. What's inside the singing kettle?
Before the Singing Kettle began producing live stage shows for the home video market, the group had their own television series produced by BBC Scotland between 1989 and 1993, soon after released on video. The first 3 videos were no doubt popular with the families, but these days they are nothing to write home about. The episodes were just 10-minute segments of Scylla and Artie singing songs to kids in front of a basic background with virtually no plot included. The releases are pretty outdated by today's standards, especially when you look at future Singing Kettle releases. Altogether, 5 TV series were commissioned, 2 of which I owned. The first TV video for me was Singing Kettle Christmas Crackers, released in 1992. It's a very basic release with one obvious twist. It has a Christmas theme, but how does it hold up? Truth be told, I actually consider this to be the worst Singing Kettle video I have ever owned, for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, the video release is too short. The first 3 videos each ran for about 1 hour. This release runs at only 42 minutes, only 29 of which involve the usual stage show, during which the songs are incredibly brief. This is hardly going to hold the kids for that long. Be careful, you might blink and miss Willie and Maw, the alter egos of Scylla and Artie. Reason number 2, Jesus Christ on a tree, this video is repetitive. The main theme song for the show is called Christmas Crackers. If you watch this show, you are going to hear that song a lot. You watch this, you're going to hear that song 8 times. If this were the only Christmas singing Kettle home video, I could probably praise it more. But unfortunately, there are more worthwhile releases out there. The first one that comes to mind is Singing Kettle Christmas Party from 1996. It is by far a more memorable release. It features the first video appearance of Jane, it has a longer running time, and features more Christmas songs with 0 repeats. You compare them both, and Christmas Party wins overall. It's not that Crackers is a bad release, it's just inferior to nearly everything that comes after. I'd only recommend this to the hardcore fans that want to own everything. The songs are short but still decent, and Scylla, Artie and Gary have incredible chemistry together, on or off stage.
Remember to give a smile.
Clap your hands.
And sing along.
Come on, we better go.
Okay.
The next year, out comes Adventures in Kettleland. This was my only Singing Kettle release that I never actually kept at my house. This resided at Lochgelly for my childhood. It's another TV series, basic 10-minute episodes, a few songs in each, only this time there's an element of plot in each episode. They're stranded on a deserted island, they're in the woods for a picnic, they're on a farm, they're in New York, Kettle City. There's actually something going on. Now, I've criticised the past TV shows for being bland and irrelevant in the 21st century. No doubt I feel the same about this release. And the answer couldn't be further from the truth. I actually like this one. It is actually really good and is aged remarkably well when compared to everything before it. Some of the songs in this are surprisingly better than I remember. I'd actually say this video has the best version of the song Old MacDonald that I have ever heard. Which is a truly sad thing for a 24-year-old to see on the internet. What am I doing with my life? So would I recommend this release? Oh my god, yes. This is without a doubt the best video release pre-1995. The music is great and the group charm is outstanding. Now there's one more video I'd like to cover today. It's a big one. It's an iconic one. It's one of the first videos I ever owned. Let's look at Singing Kettle World Tour. This one is where the group made a transition from a TV series to a live stage recording. There had been live Singing Kettle shows since 1989, but this was the first show actually recorded for home video, all the way back in 1994. It's still split into 15-minute segments, but it feels more like a stage show compared to the last releases. So how does it hold up? It's okay. Okay, where do I start? Well, for one thing, it introduces a new theme song, one that will stick with the show for the next 20 years.
What's inside the singing kettle?
You like it? Good, because you're going to hear it a lot in this video, because we're going to France, Egypt, Australia, China, and back to America, and that jingle will be there to introduce every single goddamn country. Not to mention an extra round at the end to promote the now closed Singing Kettle shop. The video's longer than everything before it. 81 minutes long, with each segment featuring a different country in the world tour, each featuring 3 or 4 songs which may or may not relate to the location. I'm sure it's an iconic release, but does that make it super good? Not particularly. It won't beat anything after it, and it certainly doesn't beat Adventures in Kettleland. The songs on this one really don't stick out as well as the last videos. It also has the worst Willie and Moss segment I have ever seen. Honestly, this video succeeds more in the chemistry between the group members as well as the educational geographic aspect in the show. If I had to point out two parts in this video to support this argument, I'd refer to the French portion where Scylla and Artie teach French vocabulary using an oversized phrasebook. I'd also refer to Australia where Scylla suffers some mishaps with a boomerang. She throws it one way and it comes from behind and smacks her in the back, which eventually leads her to throw away a singing kettle. To be fair, if you were being abused by a rogue boomerang, you'd throw things too. So is this one worthy? I guess. Like I said, it won't be anything released after this one, but if you like the singing kettle and you want to educate your kids, and you have a functional VCR in this day and age, I suppose you can't go wrong with this one. On the other hand, I'd argue best loved sing-along songs picked the best songs from the release. The songs really aren't truly memorable in World Tour. So overall, for these three videos, Adventures in Kettleland wins by a landslide. This is the only one I would truly recommend. And it's the only one I don't own anymore. Of course. It was left at my grandmother's house, and I'm assuming she sold the video when she rid herself of her VCR around 2007, so I was never able to retrieve it. There was, however, one video I was able to recover in time. Or should I say, there were two videos. Nice, huh? This is my model railway, circa 2006. For the past 15 years, it has resided in my grandmother's attic. I haven't seen it in 8 years, but as far as I know, it's still there. My grandfather had a thing for model railways, so it seems natural that his loving wife would be happy to give up her space for moi. Look at this model of Gordon. In 2002, this cost her £70. It is the most expensive model in my entire collection. My grandmother would buy me practically anything in those days. Now, when I was young and I wasn't playing with this railway and I wasn't watching Cartoon Network at odd hours of the night, I had a fair few videos to amuse me. Fox and the Hound, Lion King, Toy Story 2, Pinocchio, Storying Song Collection, and of course, Adventures in Kettleland. It wasn't as much as what I had at home, but for a monthly sleepover, it worked for me. There's a story here that I'm a little vague on details wise. 20 years later, I'm trying to piece everything together. In 1998, I came across something worthwhile in Asda. I suspect the discovery was at the same time I was buying My Little Thomas. Unfortunately, my mother wasn't going to shell out cash for this thing. This one had only 5 episodes. I only owned one of them at that point, and it was cheaper than the other set. At this point, I already owned about 80% of the stories in this collection. If I already owned more than half, it wasn't going to happen. She bought me Little Thomas. Not this. Oh, bollocks. Not to worry, I know someone who'd buy it for me. I see my grandmother soon after. I ask if she'd buy it, and of course, she says yes. Had she known that I already owned every single thing in this collection, she probably would have said otherwise. But fortunately, that wasn't the case. Booyah! I get my way. She takes me to this very shopping centre in Dunfermline and picks up the complete first series of Thomas the Tank Engine. As the title suggests, what we have here is all 26 episodes of the first season of Thomas and Friends. Why do I need this? I already own 4 videos from season 1, already giving me 26 episodes. I don't need this release. That's what I would say these days, and is exactly the reason why I never bought the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. But then again, it was 1988. I was barely 5 years old. All I knew is that this box contained an ungodly amount of content from my favourite TV series of all time. I had to have it. I had to have everything. So this remained at Lochgelly for many years, until eventually it was moved over to my house, and it's remained with me ever since. These 2 videos, along with 2 videos of Cartoon Network, are all that remains of my Lochgelly video collection. Well, let's have a look at this quote-unquote treasure trove. VCI, go figure. It's always VCI this or big red rectangle thingy that. So we have a promo for various Thomas releases, like Story and Song Collection. Maybe I could talk about that sometime. Oh, right. Okay, what about Chases, Races and Runaway? Oh, well, shit. There's only so many Thomas videos I could talk about. I barely owned any of these. And as for the rest of this, I've covered all this before. I assure you, my opinions on Sooty, the BFG, and these stupid bears have not changed. Moving on, so as you may have noticed, this release comes with 2 videos. Episodes 1 through 13, Thomas and Gordon through Thomas Turns on the Snow, come on tape number 1, and episodes 14 through 26, Thomas and Bertie through Thomas's Christmas Party, are on tape number 2. Once again, I owned every episode at this point, so as a 25-year-old, I see the purchase as redundant. As a 5-year-old with an easily pleased brain, however, I saw it as the best thing ever. But even then, I knew it wasn't going to beat Chases, Races and Runaways, and it probably came down to the lack of variety. With Chases, while it had 8 fewer episodes, it had a bigger range, covering 4 seasons, 18 episodes overall, only 6 of which I owned prior to this release. This big set, on the other hand, 26 episodes, 8 more than Chases, but I still owned them all already. In a way, it's like I'm just watching these 4 videos one after another for 2.5 hours. So in the end, is it worthy? As a kid, yes. As an adult, eh. It depends on what you already have. Do you have these 4? If the answer is yes, then don't bother, unless you'd rather have them all on 2 cassettes as opposed to 4. Then again, with DVDs so prominent in this day and age, the release would logically be even less of an eye-catcher. So maybe, if you care about the series more than I do and you're pro VHS, then sure, it'll probably win for you. I barely watch the show anymore, so I'd personally pass. You know, at this point, I'm sick of it all. I'm sick of Thomas, and I'm sick of Cartoon Network. I'm going back to Disney.
The Disney Channel always has good stuff.
But we have busy lives and different tastes.
Disney has created 3 extra channels at no extra cost.
And indeed they did. In September 2000, Disney launched Playhouse Disney, Toon Disney, and Disney Channel Plus One, a 1-hour time shift channel. TV was great in the old days. For myself, the best time for children's TV ranged from 2003 to 2010, and a fair bit of credit goes to Toon Disney. That channel has always been my favourite. Sure, I watched regular Disney and occasionally Playhouse Disney in the early days, but Toon Disney was the winner in my eyes. Not only was it the only 24-hour channel of the 4, but it also had what I was looking for, 24 hours worth of cartoons, and there were a lot of them. Between 2000 and 2006, I was a regular viewer of Lilo and Stitch, DuckTales, House of Mouse, Fillmore, Timon and Pumbaa, Goof Troop, Recess, Buzz Lightyear, 101 Dalmatians, American Dragon, and one of my favourite cartoons of all time, Kim Possible. Oh yes. I discovered Kim Possible on a late night in 2004. Nothing was on, I couldn't sleep, I had the living room TV to myself, late night Cartoon Network wasn't working for me and wouldn't truly be working for another year or so. So I gave it a go, and I actually began to like it. Kim Possible is an average teenage girl struggling to balance her school life and her hectic personal life. Standard kids stuff, you know. The only difference here is that Kim is an internationally famous superhero often called upon to foil the plans of Dr. Draken, She-Go, Duff Killigan, Monkey Fist, and the father and son duo of Senior, and Junior, just to name a few. And that's just the superhero side of her. There's still her personal life. At home, she's resisting the urge to strangle her brothers on a daily basis. At school, she's able to juggle responsibilities as captain of the cheerleading squad, as well as a million other activities, all the while maintaining constant high grades. I can't say how, but the show clicked for me in a way Ed, Edd n Eddy, Billy and Mandy, and Tom and Jerry clicked with me. It's hard to explain precisely, all you know is that you just want to keep watching as much as possible. Without even hesitating, I can safely say Kim Possible easily is one of my top 5 cartoons of all time. It's up there with Ed, Edd n Eddy, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Sonic Boom, and Tom and Jerry. And as with everything in Video Memories, there were home video releases. What we have here is a recent discovery. I picked it up many years ago, but only recently discovered it in my old house. There was something else I found, but it's irrelevant right now. So this is Kim Possible, The Secret Files from 2003. This DVD holds 4 of the show's 87 episodes: Attack of the Killer Babies, Downhill, Coach Possible, and Crush, all from Season 1, as well as a music video for the song Say the Word from the episode Hidden Talent. The Region 1 DVD substitutes Coach Possible for the Season 2 episode Partners, this episode being DVD exclusive until aired on TV in March 2004, 6 months after this DVD's release. Is it a good DVD? If you're happy with just 4 episodes, then I'd say hell yes. Even with just 4, it's still guaranteed to entertain. But how well does this series hold up when compared to other content from Disney? Well, let's put it this way. Last year I purchased the entire series bar the movie So the Drama on Amazon Prime and spent a month rewatching everything. And the show has aged tremendously. It was better than I ever remember it being. It was exhausting, sure, but when you love a TV show, binge watching can't hurt. Unless, of course, it's Breaking Bad, or Walking Dead, or 24, or 2.5 Men, or How I Met Your Mother. In fact, anything with more than 5 seasons. In that case, it drains you and you never want to rewatch the entire show again. Kim Possible, on the other hand, I will happily rewatch all the way through and is probably the only Disney show I will ever say that about. American Dragon and Fillmore and Recess have their places out there. They're all still really good. But they don't have the humour and charm that Kim has. If I'm brutally honest, Kim Possible has aged better than pretty much any cartoon I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot in the past 25 years. It's easily in my top 3 for animation TV shows. Yeah, it's moving up from top 5. Obviously, it will never hit the heights of The Edge, my favourite cartoon of all time, but it could easily take the spot for second favourite. You know, there is one thing Kim Possible has in common with The Edge. There's a painful lack of home media releases for both shows. With The Edge, we have 2 complete seasons and 2 highlights DVDs, each with only 6 episodes. With Kim, we have the 2 movies, A Stitch in Time and So the Drama, and 2 compilation DVDs, The Secret Files and The Villain Files. The first 2 seasons are available only from Disney Movie Club, but from what I've seen, registration for that club is a nightmare and a half, so it's hardly worth it. I may already have the entire series on Amazon Prime, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a crime that this series, one of the most popular Disney cartoons of all time, has not had a physical release for the entire series. I don't care how pricey it is. I paid 75 quid for the entire series on Amazon. I would happily pay for a complete series box set for either Kim or The Edge. The Edge especially, since the Amazon Prime options are not only more expensive, but also vastly incomplete. So what I'm basically saying here is Kim Possible is great, one of the absolute best. This, on the other hand, in October 1997, Chases, Races and Runaways was released. 18 episodes of mischief and mishaps. Normally with 18 episodes and a running time of 107 minutes, you would expect this to be the longest single cassette product ever released for Thomas the Tank Engine. And it was, until nearly 6 months later with the biggest party video ever. They managed to top Chases with 2 extra episodes, bringing the total up to 20, with the running time of 115 minutes. Holy crap sauce, that's nearly 2 hours on one videotape. That's just what I need. I have a feeling that I'm forgetting something regarding my youth. Nah, whatever, doesn't matter. Let's have a look at this. I want to watch this entire video all the way through. I don't want to watch any more of this video ever. Yeah, I remember now. I don't like this video. I never have. I never will. Normally I would list every episode on the video, but there's 20 of them. That sure as hell isn't happening. Cue the 15-second title sequence. 20 episodes on this video, and it all sucks. Not the episodes themselves are fine, just not how they're laid out here. Let me just go over two problems. Number one, I've stated my feelings towards Season 3 of the series before. It's my least favourite of the classic era of Thomas and Friends. There are 8 Season 3 episodes in this video, and they're all at the beginning. Counting the opening promos, in order for me to get to episodes I actually enjoy, it's going to take me 42.5 minutes just to get to the Trouble with Mud. Yeah, I know that's the Season 3 episode, but it's the only one here that I genuinely care for. Buzz Buzz and All at Sea are fine, and Henry's Forest... well, I'll share my views on that one some other time. Those episodes are fine, but I'm not going to be excited for them. If I have to wait 40 minutes for an episode I actually like, that's a problem for me. Number 2, the organising of the episodes in this video is horrendous. Like I said, 45 minutes of pure Season 3 is not the way to win my affections in a marathon like this. But it actually gets worse from there. From there, we have Dirty Work, where Duck is forced away from Tidmouth by Diesel. After that, we have Doug Takes Charge, where a new engine called Duck is brought to Soda while Percy is mocked for a recent blunder with a signal. Following which, we have Percy and the Signal, where Percy has a blunder with a fucking signal! It continues. We have Saved from Scrap, where Edward rescues a traction engine called Trevor from scrap, only 40 minutes after Edward and the exact same Trevor throw a garden party. We have Coal, where Henry has firebox trouble, but is perked up with some Welsh coal. He's all happy. And then we have Trouble in the Shed, where Henry goes on strike with James and Gordon. Sir Topham Hatt takes no shit and locks them in the shed until they decide to behave. After the credits, we have Tenders and Turntables, where the engines are roaming the island, bitching and moaning about having to collect coaches and such, leading them to go out on a strike the very next day. Dare I say, the organisation here is an absolute train wreck. After Tenders and Turntables, the episode ordering is fine, even ending on an episode I like. But I still can't help but wonder, why are most of the episodes out of order? The episodes are technically fine, there are some I wouldn't pick, but Jesus, it wouldn't have killed them to organise them by season, similar to Chases, Races and Runaways' biggest ever Christmas collection and almost everything before it. Seeing Season 1 first would have held my attention for a bit, but by starting with Season 3, I feel nothing but boredom. Some people appreciate this video more, some probably even love it. I have never liked this video, and I doubt I ever will. The episode choices and organisation don't do enough to justify the massive video length. If I ever decide to watch Thomas and Friends for more than an hour and a half in one single day, I'll stick with Chases, Races and Runaways. 2 fewer episodes, but it makes better choices in more ways than one. Quality over quantity. So last time I talked about Disney and I had a happy time. Whenever I talk about Cartoon Network, I usually have a good time. I return to Thomas and it's a crappy experience. So should I do Cartoon Network or Disney? Or maybe more Tom and Jerry? God knows I've got plenty to go through. In July 1869, 2 homeless boys known as Fred and George were adopted and received into the first National Children's Home by Minister Thomas Bowman Stevenson. It may have seemed like a small supportive act back in the mid-19th century, but 120 years later, this act had evolved into one of the UK's biggest charities, National Children's Home, now known as Action for Children, which helps over 300,000 children annually. In 1989, Warner Brothers, MGM and Disney collaborated to create this video in celebration of the charity's 120th anniversary, with all proceeds going to NCH. The goal was to raise an extra £1 million for NCH from the sales of this release. Granted, I wasn't around back in those days, so I can't say for sure, but knowing how massive this charity is, I would not be surprised if the goal was met. But here we are, almost 30 years later. VHS is pretty much a dead technology, and as NCH has gone through 2 name changes, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this was a pretty obscure release. But let's see how well it holds up. This video holds 7 cartoons, 2 from both MGM and Disney, and 3 from Warner Brothers. From Warner, we have Room and Bird from 1951, Devil May Hare from 1954, and An Egg Scramble from 1950. From MGM, we have Tom and Jerry's The Cat Concerto from 1947, and Bear and the Bean from 1948. As for Disney, we have How to Be a Detective from 1952, and the DuckTales episode Magica's Magic Mirror from 1987. 29 years after the initial release and 15 years after my last viewing, is it still enjoyable to watch? Sorta. Of course, the Tom and Jerry cartoon is great, go figure, but as for the rest of it, there are some aspects that are better than I remember, and there are some aspects that are worse than I remember. In the latter case, Warner is the biggest loser. Egg Scramble has always been the worst cartoon in the entire collection, and I'd argue that Room and Bird has aged really badly and is probably one of the worst Tweety cartoons I have ever seen. It's not terrible, just not particularly great. Which is a shame because I really liked it back in the 90s. On the other hand, The Bear and the Bean is confusing as all hell, but has aged really well. As for Disney, How to Be a Detective for me is an incredibly obscure goofy short that I could barely remember as a kid. Certainly didn't like it that much. These days I've actually come to appreciate it more than ever. It's silly but very charming. And as for DuckTales, of course I enjoy that. Enjoyed it as a kid, enjoyed it as an adult with nothing better to do than to run a generic review series on the internet. I don't plan on covering the series fully, but it's safe to say that DuckTales is one of the most iconic animated television productions of the past 30 years. I've never heard a bad word against it. If anything, one thing this video omits is the theme music, which I'd argue is the second best theme song to any cartoon in history.
Danger! Watch behind you. There's a stranger out to find you. What to do? Just grab onto some DuckTales. Woo! Every day that I am making DuckTales. Woo! Tales of daring, new, bad, and good DuckTales. Woo! Not ponytails or cotton tails. No DuckTales. Woo!
Tremendous, ain't it? One of the absolute best. If I'm brutally honest, there's only one theme song that can beat DuckTales, and it's a surprising winner. Trust an obscure cartoon from the 90s to have a better theme song than all of my top 5 cartoons put together. So Birthday Video Collection is a mixed and incredibly obscure experience. Does that make it a bust? I don't think so. Deep down, the only cartoon I genuinely don't like is Egg Scramble. And that's right at the end. I can live with the rest of them. I have a soft spot for my early collection and it was for a good cause, so I still consider this video a winner. Right, we've had something from the new millennium, something from the 90s, and something from the 80s. Let's keep going back. Let's have something from the 70s. Well, we're gonna start by going forward before we go back. Make sense? Great! Let me introduce you to Cartoon Network 2. And yes, that is the correct spelling. This channel was launched in April 2006, just over a month after Toon Disney was replaced by Disney Cinemagic. Around this time, it's my belief that the owners and operators of Cartoon Network were trying to modernize and update the channel, which meant doing away with some classic content, in this case almost anything pre-2004. So in April, they launched CN2 to continue airing these ancient television programs. And by ancient, I mean anything ranging from Looney Tunes from the 40s to Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi from 2005. This channel was basically created for the exact same purpose as Boomerang. Cartoon Network runs the modern and new content, and this thing runs the classic stuff. From mid-2007, this channel ran 24 hours a day, but for the first year, it had a very bizarre schedule for a children's cartoon channel. CN2 went on air at 3 AM, aired a preschool block from 6 AM to 3 PM, and went off air at 7 PM. I repeat, it went on air at 3 in the fucking morning. And being a wise 12/13-year-old at the time, I made a not so smart decision. I want to be awake when this channel goes on air every day. Lord have mercy. So let me just lay all this out so you can have a decent understanding. The new channel runs from 3 AM to 7 PM, also at the same time running a preschool segment known as Cartoonito from 6 AM to 3 PM. This is 2006, so I was also watching cartoons every night from 11 PM to 1 AM. Assuming I watched the full thing and I didn't go back to bed at 6, I was only getting about 2 hours of sleep every night. I swear this is all true. I remember setting my alarm for 2:57 in order to be prepared for this. And yes, even on school nights, I did this. My 25-year-old self cringes at the very thought of it. I had a Sky Plus box at the time. I don't know why I didn't just record everything and watch it later. It was none of my favourites either. It was all shit from the 1970s. The Flintstones, the Jetsons, Hong Kong Phooey, Captain Caveman, Wacky Races, Top Cat, Dastardly and Muttley and the Fly Machines. And the thing we're here to talk about, help, it's the Hair Bear Bunch. At last, we get to a video topic. The series featuring Hare, Square and Booby Bear and their determination to make daily escapes from the Wonderland Zoo, eluding the determined zookeeper Eustace Peevely and his bumbling sidekick Botch. This pretty obscure cartoon ran on CN2 between 2006 and 2008. How obscure are we talking? It only ever ran during the night, had only 16 episodes, and was from 1971 and 72. In addition to these horrific late night viewings, I also had this video for the series, released in 2002. Let's see how well this TV series holds up. Warner Brothers logo, yeah.
Beware of illegal video cassettes.
Oh boy, here we go. Not exactly as cheerful as the announcer on the Aristocats. Granted, they were both talking about the same illegal activity, but this guy feels more professional and more uptight, and you know, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Reduce your viewing pleasure and jeopardize future film production.
Mum, can I watch TV?
Yes, but don't sit too close.
Mum, can I have a biscuit?
Yes, but just one.
Mum, can I go round Tim's?
Yes, but don't be too long.
Come on. Mum, can I go on AOL?
Yes.
Jesus, another obscurity. Two things here. One, who on earth still uses AOL these days? That's a serious question, by the way. Other than my mother, I don't know a single person that still uses it. It's 2018. That service went out of style about 15 years ago. And two, how irritated does that kid's mother sound? With every question, she sounds less and less positive, until the last one where her voice is basically saying, yes, fine, just shut the fuck up already. And now there's a trailer for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Iconic, sure, but it's probably one of the worst movies in the series. It looks great and I'll happily watch it if I'm binging the movies, but I wouldn't rank it that high. The main stars are great now, but they were painful to listen to in this one. Not a bad movie overall, certainly not Half-Blood Prince bad. Holy Mother of Dumbledore, no. Now you would think the next ad is for a Batman movie, but nope, it's Scooby-Doo. In this case, the 2002 movie. Oh, the live-action movies, they're special. No, actually, I will go against Philosopher's Stone, but I will defend the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. The first two are really not that bad. Blah blah blah, Certificate U, blah blah blah, Tiny Toons, blah blah blah, Free Willy, blah blah blah, the chance to make the right choice, blah blah bloody fucking blah. And finally, we're a go. This video release holds 6 episodes of Hair Bear Bunch, about a third of the series overall, giving us a pretty healthy running time of 1 hour and 40 minutes. We have Keep Your Keeper, where the bears trick Peevely into taking an extended vacation by fooling him into thinking he has a totally not made up disease. All goes according to plan until they experience Peevely's terrifying replacement. Raffle Ruckus, where Hair Bear convinces Peevely to hold a raffle to fundraise zoo equipment facilities. Things seem fine until Peevely discovers what the top raffle prize is. Gobs of Gobaloon, where the bears discover a map to stolen treasure buried somewhere in the zoo. Bridal Boo Boo, where the bears try to find Peevely a romantic lover in order to keep him busy from the zoo. Unfortunately, his new lady is almost as dedicated to the zoo as he is, if not more. No Space Like Home, where the bears escape to Mars in search of adventure and fame, and Peevely finds himself the centre of attention with the locals. And last of all, Love Bug Bungle, where the bears attempt to bring romantic happiness to their new roommate Arnie. So how does the show hold up? I'm a little bit mixed. I don't normally regard 1970s Hanna-Barbera content that highly. Certainly nothing I'd go back to most days. As far as I'm concerned, most of the great cartoons in the world were made after 1980. On the other hand, subsequent to the 60s, I would argue that Hair Bear Bunch is probably the best cartoon Hanna-Barbera ever made until Johnny Bravo in 1997. It's not as good as Scooby-Doo or Wacky Races in my eyes, but they were all made in the 60s, so I'm discounting them. And since only 16 episodes were ever made, I'd say this video covers the series rather well. Plenty of episodes running at a decent length of time. If you like the series, this video can do no wrong, and could be worth a viewing every couple of years at most. If you don't like it, that's okay too. There's still better animated programming out there. A large amount of better. I'm a bit in the middle. I still like the series, but I'm lucky if that can last more than an hour. Let me compare my situation to Kim Possible. As of this review, I'm in my second series viewing of Kim in just 6 months. This is every single episode I'm talking about, including both movies. That series holds up so much better than Hair Bear Bunch, which I'm re-watching for the first time in about 8 years. And I only made it to the 4th episode here. It has a charm, sure, but not that much of a charm compared to other tunes. So in a way, Cartoon Network 2 had it right. Not only did it run only for the first 2 years, but it never ran more than once daily and never outside the graveyard slot. Fortunately, I came to realise eventually that it certainly wasn't worth waking up that early just to watch some elusive cartoons, especially when I had the right tech on hand. So in the end, we have a mixed result. Next time, I sense changes in the air. So last year, I covered my 2008 holiday to Canada. Go up there, it snows heavily, I'm introduced to the Family Channel, and oh yeah, I end up buying an ungodly amount of Thomas & Friends DVDs. At my last count, 16 of them. Most of them in that 2-week break. It's probably the biggest TNF shopping spree I have ever gone on. The biggest and last spree, actually. Barring any purchases for this series, the last DVD I bought was released in October of that year. I wasn't actually planning on covering any more of these DVDs and video memories. There's only so much a British man can say about these American DVDs, especially with only one story that pretty much covers them all. But then a few months ago, I found myself shifting another crate of old DVDs to my new house, and what do I find in it but Thomas and His Friends Get Along, one of the better Canadian purchases. I had no idea it was in this crate and it caught me off guard. So what the heck, let's do one more. Let's have a look at, well, shit. This was a bad habit of mine when I was younger. After watching old DVDs, I had a habit of accidentally putting them in the wrong boxes, and this one is no exception. I would box them wrong, and I would never go back to fix the issue, as I assumed I would remember where things are. Absolute horseshit theory. I have no box for Help Out, and I have no DVD for Get Along. Okay, fine, we'll do them both.
Turning faces, strange changes.
Okay, that bit's done. Again. So we have Thomas and His Friends Get Along and Thomas and His Friends Help Out. We'll start with Help Out, the first of the two to be released on DVD, in this case Feb 25th, 2003. We have 11 episodes from seasons 1 through 3, narrated by George Carlin. We have Edward and Gordon. Edward Helps Out. Jesus Christ, I hate these American titles. Edward Helps Out, Foolish Freight Cars, Thomas Percy and the Mail Train, Thomas Breaks the Rules, Down the Mine, Percy's Promise, Trouble in the Shed, Donald and Douglas, Saved from Scrap, Bertie's Chase, and Thomas and Percy's Mountain Adventure. Does this DVD have anything special? Not particularly. The only truly interesting fact I could note is that it has one episode from each of the first 11 home video releases. Thomas gets tricked through Percy's ghostly trick. I actually had to double check every single episode, and it does indeed check out. So in a way, this is a seriously coincidental best of package. And about a year later, in March 2004, out comes Thomas and his friends Get Along. 10 episodes, also from the first 3 seasons, also narrated by Georgie. Old Iron, James in a Mess, Duck Takes Charge, Down the Mine, The Runaway, Better Late Than Never, Tenders and Turntables, Percy Proves a Point, Trust Thomas, and Percy and the Signal. Also, exclusive to the DVD is the first Thomas and Friends music video known as Thomas's Anthem. That is truly the only notable thing here, and what separates Get Along from Help Out. 1 episode less, but it features a music video. Whoop-de-doo, I already have sing-along and stories, so that means sod all to me. When I have more than one video or DVD on hand, I don't usually have the easiest time trying to decide which is the best release. In this case, however, I think Help Out wins for both quality and quantity. Obviously, it has more content than Get Along, but the episode selection is pretty vast. With Get Along, it's mostly Season 1 and 2, and only one Season 3 pick. Help Out, 1 extra episode, and it all ranges from the beginning of Season 1 to the end of Season 3. You present these arguments to me these days and instruct me to pick one, Help Out wins in the end. In which case, the boxing dilemma has been resolved. I may not have the disc for Get Along, but I do have a box for Help Out. This may have grown out of a cringe-worthy habit of my youth, but I can probably live with this. That's just 2 DVDs though. We look at my video collection, and that's no longer an issue. Everything is where it needs to be. Like this one for example. We have the box, and we have the correct video, thankfully. You know, I can talk about it a million times and I will never get sick of cartoons. That nightly 2-hour block was just my heaven. And despite all that, I've never actually dedicated time to any specific cartoon from that time. Time to change that with Dexter's Laboratory Ego Trip, released in December 1999, right on the edge of the millennium. Oh, happy times. That clip from D-Dimensional is one of my earliest memories from Cartoon Network, dating back to the turn of the new millennium, an absolute fantastic time for TV. As you'd expect, Dexter's Laboratory goes back far for me. I can safely say it makes my top 5 for cartoons. At the same time, I can't say that I'm a massive diehard fan like I am of Ed, Edd n Eddy. I couldn't tell you stories about Dexter's friends or enemies or when something noteworthy happens in a certain episode. I'm not up on the series that much. Truth be told, despite my repeatedly stated fondness for cartoons, the only one I've ever gone back and rewatched more than once is Ed, Edd n Eddy. I like Dexter's Lab, I do, but it's probably not the kind of thing I'm willing to sit down and watch all the way through. Then again, this is coming from the guy who was willing to rewatch Kim Possible more than once in half a year. So let's give Ego Trip a chance. 70 minutes? I don't remember the movie being that long. Okay, let's take a look. Fuck. Wait a minute. As always, opening promos. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I talked about it with the last video I covered. My views haven't changed, I assure you, and I doubt they ever will at this point. I'll watch it, but I'm not going to call it one of the best. Oh boy, it's a Pokemon promo for the first 10 volumes of Indigo League. Son of a bitch. I'm going to have to cover Pokemon sooner or later. But not now. This is nostalgic, sure, but it's not the right time. Not yet, anyway. Video certificates, yes, I don't care. I'm 25, I have no children, I don't have to care. Game over? Oh right, so this is why the video runs for 70 minutes. Before the movie, there are 4 short Dexter's Lab episodes. Game Over, Dream Machine, Dollhouse Drama, and The Big Cheese, all from Season 1. Why are there 4 episodes? I don't know. It's a Dexter's Lab video, so it probably makes sense to promote the TV series. I mean, I never saw that happen with the Powerpuff Girls movie, but whatever. Do I have much to say about these 4 cartoons? Not really. Dexter is taken hostage by an Atari game, he builds a machine to give him a nightmare-free sleep, he shrinks himself down to doll size and loses touch with reality, and a broken record machine forces him to speak nothing but one French phrase.
Omelette de fromage. Morning, Poophead! Omelette de fromage! Omelette de...
There are a few things I could note. In Dream Machine, the sight of Dee Dee scribbling on that paper at a high enough speed to light the paper on fire is fucking hilarious, and I don't care who knows it. Also, in The Big Cheese, not only did Dexter have an incredibly convenient test, but his math teacher has no neck. Look at that, that's just not healthy. It's like Billy's dad in Billy and Mandy. And 30 minutes later, we finally make it to the movie. One night, and wherever this movie is set, while Mum and Dad play Twister downstairs, Mandark attempts to steal the Neuroatomic Protocore, a dangerous invention with enough power to provide near-infinite energy to any electrical device, but is thwarted by Dexter. He boots Mandark out of the house and returns to work. A few minutes later, Dee Dee enters the lab. She approaches Dexter and prepares to say,
Stop your gibberish, woman. I have no time for you today. Much too much has happened, so I bid you adieu. Goodbye, sister. You know the exit is this way. Goodbye.
Well, that was rude. Dee Dee silently walks into Dexter's time machine and disappears. At the same time, out come a group of dangerous-looking robots. They're out to destroy the one who saved the future. Dexter takes them down and begins to marvel at the news. He, Dexter, is the boy who saves the future. Because the future has taken too long to happen, Dexter hops into the time machine and disappears into the future. Over the next half hour, Dexter runs into many familiar faces and a battle ensues for absolute worldwide power. I won't spoil what happens in the end, but I'd like to mention something known as a causal loop. In other words, a series of events that have a circular relationship of causation. In layman's terms, event A causes event B, which in turn causes event A through the effects of time travel. To better explain causal loops, let me reference the end of the 2012 movie Looper. Bruce Willis plays the older version of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, known as Joe. In the future, a crime lord known as the Rainmaker causes the death of Joe's wife, Event A. Old Joe travels back 30 years to kill the child that will eventually grow up to become the Rainmaker. We'll call him Sid. Sid's mother defiantly stands between Old Joe and her child, determined to protect him. Young Joe realizes that the death of Sid's mother at the hands of his older self, Event B, will cause Sid to grow up and become the deadly Rainmaker and eventually cause the death of Joe's wife, creating Event A, driving Old Joe to travel back in time, in other words, a causal loop. If you've never seen Ego Trip, apply that logic to the movie and you can probably figure out the ending. If that's not enough, take note of where Dee Dee goes at the beginning of the movie. That takes us to the end of Ego Trip. Is it a good movie? Sure, it has its moments. Is it the best Cartoon Network movie? No, that honour goes to Ed, Edd n Eddy's Big Picture Show. Other than that, I'd say it's more kid-friendly than the Powerpuff Girls movie because that movie was dark. Is it better? Probably. I don't hate the Powerpuff Girls movie, but when it comes to cartoons, I do prefer light-hearted comedy over dark and depressing any day. Which explains why I love Big Picture Show. So that's Dexter's Lab Ego Trip. Harmless cartoon fun. The TV show still has a pleasant charm, and if you enjoy it, you should be able to enjoy Ego Trip. Now, there's a Thomas and Friends video I'd like to cover. But I feel like I need to address something. Something I should have covered a long time ago. So if you've been paying attention thus far, you'll notice a running theme for video memories. Almost everything I cover relates to my youth. Thomas and Friends, Singing Kettle, Cartoon Network, Sonic the Hedgehog, those are 4 main areas of my childhood. But there's a 5th, and it's bigger than almost everything else.
Catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all. Ooh, gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon. Catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all. Ooh, gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon. Catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon.
For over 20 years, I have been a massive fan of Pokemon. It began in 1998 and has never left me, even after a massive gaming hiatus in the mid-2000s. I never owned a Nintendo DS, so I never played past Pokemon Emerald. Up to and including 2010, I played the games everything up to Generation 3, I watched the TV series, Kanto to Sinnoh, and I owned an ungodly amount of videos. You would think this right here would be enough to warrant a guaranteed early episode of Video Memories. And you'd be right, it most certainly would. There's just one problem. Let me rewind a little bit. It's late April 2017. I'm working on an episode of GT dedicated to Pokemon, covering the first 20 years of the series for me. It's all fine, I'm working on it, until eventually I require a scene from the first movie to illustrate the utter trauma I felt seeing Ash die at the hands of Mewtwo. I record a brief clip from it, and it gets blocked worldwide. I also test out a clip for the end of the video. That also gets blocked worldwide. That worried me. It turns out that ShowPro, the copyright owners for the Pokemon anime, are intensely protective of the series. You think Mattel is protective of Thomas and Friends? Oh no, they are virtually nothing compared to ShowPro. Now I have no right to complain in this matter, it's their property, but it did hinder me. I had been wanting to do a Pokemon retrospective for months, and now I realised the project was becoming more and more unlikely to see the light of day. As much as I didn't want to, I had to abandon the idea. So this is more of an acknowledgement than a review. I have these videos, the first 11 volumes of Indigo League. I'm missing volume 2, Christ knows what it is, but it's close enough. I have the first movie, which came with a spare copy of volume 1. I have Mewtwo Returns, which I'm needing to replace as the video's missing. I have the second movie, Pokemon 2000, and I have 2 copies of Pokemon Forever. Why do I have 2 copies? I don't know. I also own Pokemon Forever on DVD, as well as Jirachi Wishmaker, Pokemon 3 the movie, and I think Pokemon Heroes. I'm not too sure on that last one. I also have the entire Master Quest series on DVD, as well as the Pokemon Chronicles box set from Contender Entertainment. I also have a few videos in recordable Fridays dedicated to Pokemon. Tape 12 has 5 hours of the Orange Island saga from Toonami in May 2005, as well as a repeat of Part 2 of The Legend of Thunder from Pokemon Chronicles. Only the second airing of that episode on British TV, as a matter of fact. I also have a DVD from a week before which shows Part 1 of the same episode. I have more than enough material and enough of a history to go on. I just don't feel confident enough to do so, knowing how hell-bent ShowPro is on protecting the series. I value this channel and I'm not willing to risk some copyright strikes for a simple review. I will, however, point to one video. Even if I couldn't add footage, I was able to save the GT Pokemon audio. If you're willing to listen to what is essentially an oddly cut and unfinished podcast for 34 minutes, that will demonstrate my feelings towards the series. It ranges from my first time playing the games and my earliest memories of Pokemon Yellow, and goes through every region, games and anime, eventually leading me to spend a good chunk of time talking about why I seriously dislike Pokemon Black and White, and why I consider it to be one of the worst things I've ever seen on children's TV. The video itself is a tad out of date. It was in the early days of the Sun and Moon anime, and a while before I got back into the video games. You can thank Pokemon Gold and Silver on the 3DS Virtual Console for that. But it more or less covers how I feel about the series up to X and Y. It may also be slightly confusing due to a lack of visual footage to go along with what I'm saying. For example, I talk about capturing several Pidgeys to gain HM05 Flash. I then go on to say, you don't want to know what I wasted my first Master Ball on. Without visual footage, you'd never know that I'm talking about a level 25 Pidgeotto.
Bolt of brilliance!
If I'm brutally honest, other than my opinions on recent games, the only thing the video doesn't cover is my intense dislike for Pokemon fans on the internet. I'm sorry, but if you latch on to incredibly vague and unconfirmed rumours about games or features that may not even exist, and then feel the need to make 50-minute debate and discussion videos for said rumours, I have little to no interest in you or your content. Pokemon is a great series with great content, but it has one of the worst fan bases in existence. So as much as I would love to cover Pokemon videos in immense detail, I simply can't, not if I want this channel to survive. Now we can return to our normal schedule. Chad Valley Video, one of the least memorable Thomas and Friends releases of all time. Seriously, who the fuck ever talks about this one? This promotional video was released in 2002 as part of a deal between Galen, the Chad Valley Toy Company, and Ertl, the company releasing these popular miniature die-cast models of Thomas characters. There's the wooden series, there's Backman, there's Hornby, and then there's these metallic things. Is it Ertl? Is it ERTL? I don't know, I don't care. They were sold between 1984 and 2004, potentially being some of the first Thomas and Friends related merchandise on the open market. I myself owned a fair few of these things. Do I still have them? No, I grew up. My attention had shifted towards that black and white logo. They were gone a long time ago. But look at this, the Ertl library is massive. It's like looking at Pokemon cards, these fuckers were everywhere. With all the collectibles out there, they were easily my earliest. The latest I remember collecting them was 2002. I don't know where, and I don't know when. All I know is it involves this. It was a case of, hey kid, buy these toys, get a crappy video with it, absolutely free. So let's give it a look. Actually, you know what? Let's not and say we did. Let me just tell the story. I was 9 years old at the time. If I were just a few years older, all I'd have to do is look at the back of the box and see that it was not worth it in the absolute slightest. It only has 5 episodes, and I already owned 4 of them on at least 8 different videos. All we have here is Thomas Percy and the Coal, Toby and the Flood, Edward's Exploit, Henry's Forest, and Donald's Duck. Okay, that is a feeble attempt to promote the series. 2 episodes of Season 3 and nothing from Seasons 1 and 4. Taking into consideration that I don't even like Season 3 that much, all this thing amounts to is wasted space on the video shelf. But of course, I didn't say no, and here we are. I bought this, I took it home, and I guarantee you I never watched it. Why? Because I had this, and 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 this. You know, for all the shit I gave Biggest Party Video, I'm willing to bet I watched that more. This video is a perfect example of how easily suckered in kids are. They will ask for virtually anything as long as it has this locomotive on the front. They've seen the TV series, they're a massive fan of Thomas, they naturally want every piece of garbage they put out featuring him. It's like every Justin Bieber fan or every Pokemon fan. No matter what they put out, those sad cases want whatever product it is. Wait a minute, I'm a Pokemon fan. I like their content, not so much the show, but the games and such. You know what? Never mind. A while back, I called Bugs Bunny's Easter Funnies the worst video I own. I actually want to retract that. At least that video actually has originality of sorts. Chad Valley is probably the sleaziest home video product I have ever seen. Not only is it incredibly unmemorable, but also worthless. For one thing, there's virtually no info on this video out there, nor is there a single picture that shows which Urtel set the video came with. There are also no promos that stand out in this video. We have the VCI logo, the Ghislaine logo, and 5 sets of opening and closing credits. That is all. Nothing unique whatsoever. Second, no Thomas and Friends fan is gonna buy this without already owning at least half of the episodes. Not back then. Bear in mind, this is 2002. You watch the TV show on Nick Jr., the parents see how mesmerising the show is for you, they begin to invest in these videos. Also bear in mind that there are only 5, count them, 5 episodes on this video. The chances of your Thomas loving child not owning at least 3 of these episodes are very slim. In fact, let's make this interesting. If you own or have owned Chad Valley, leave a comment and tell me how many episodes you owned before buying this thing. I wish to be proven wrong. I'm serious here. Prove me wrong. Tell me that this was a worthy purchase for you. On that note, time to talk about something better. Something so much better.
Coming up next, it's that cunning canine Scooby-Doo and the whole gang here on Cartoon Network.
With all these talks about Cartoon Network, where would I be if I didn't mention Scooby-Doo? It's one of the longest running animated franchises in history. It began in 1969 and it's had more than a dozen TV series as well as about 4,000 movies, often more than one per year. This is almost as big as Tom and Jerry, if not bigger. It's hard to compare them since Scooby-Doo focuses on the mystery genre while Tom and Jerry is more slapstick heavy, but if I had to compare, I'd say Tom and Jerry has better TV shows, but Scooby-Doo has better movies. So with that, this time we look at what I consider to be the best Scooby-Doo movie, and quite possibly the first one I ever owned, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, released in October 2001. Halloween's approaching, it's the perfect time for Scooby-Doo. And as usual, opening promos are a thing.
Beware of illegal video cassettes.
Oh good, déjà vu.
Cassette carries a genuine label hologram.
Lion King and Aristocats still have the best warnings as far as I'm concerned. Not that there's a competition for best piracy warning, now nor there should be, but whatever.
Did you ever make anything happen? Anything you couldn't explain?
Oh, for Christ's sake. Look, I said what I had to say with Hair Bear Bunch and Ego Trip, and I stand by it. Philosopher's Stone is fine. Half-Blood Prince is god-awful. Next. See Spot Run, the story about a kid, a police dog, and a mailman who hates both. Oh good, something different. Decent movie, not the best thing ever, worth a watch every couple of years. The Wizard of Oz, oh boy. I'm sorry, I just don't like the movie. I've never really cared for anything Oz related. I know it's meant to be a classic, but I just couldn't get into it.
In a secret underground chamber, a strange and ancient Pokemon race exists, more mysterious than Mew, more powerful than Lugia, their strength unbelievable, their power unstoppable, their identity unknown.
More powerful than Lugia, huh? Sure, unless you use it in the games, in which case unknown is borderline worthless. So if you haven't gathered yet, this is a promo for a Pokemon movie, probably my favourite Pokemon movie of all time, Lord of the Unknown Tower. Also known as Pokemon 3 because I don't know a single person that called it Lord of the Unknown Tower. Mary-Kate and Ashley, oh Jesus. You know, let's just leave it at, I'm 25, I'm not watching this crap. And of course, there's a Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase video game. I played it maybe once or twice. And if I'm brutally honest, I didn't really like it that much. I'm not sure why, but I do recall not being too into it. What we have here isn't really a trailer, but more of a guide with hints and suggestions for gamers. Before we get into the movie, I should take note that there's a few episodes of Scooby-Doo Where Are You at the end of the video. Why are they at the end instead of the beginning? If you want a load of Scooby-Doo, the two cartoons can do no wrong. If you just want the movie, that's okay too, just hit stop and eject after the credits. And now we begin. Scooby and the gang are travelling to a distant university to visit their friend Eric. Eric has recently created a virtual video game featuring the gang, utilising a high-tech laser used to project real-life objects into the video game world of cyberspace, and of course, they want to see the game in action. Upon arrival, after Scooby pisses off the security guard known as Wembley, the gang learn that the previous night, Eric, his fellow student Belle, and their science teacher Professor Kaufman were attacked by a virtual monster virus with the ability to absorb computer data and take control of electrical devices. Oh, so Rotom's in the movie. No, this isn't Rotom, but he seriously seems like a threat. Unless, of course, you have a super strength electromagnet on hand. As you'd expect, Mystery Inc. jumps at the chance to solve this mystery. Because it's their thing. It's what they've done for over 30 years. Nothing new here. Fred, Velma and Daphne search for clues, and Shaggy and Scooby pig out in the cafeteria. And as per Scooby-Doo tradition, Fred and the girls do all the work. Shaggy and Scooby encounter the monster, in this case the Phantom Virus. They run like hell across the university, eventually running directly past Fred, Velma and Daphne. They pursue the monster, and shit goes horribly wrong. The meddling kids get separated in the lab and collide with each other next to the laser. An unknown figure activates the laser and beams them into the Scooby-Doo video game. Thankfully, Eric explained the rules of the video game to them beforehand. The game has 10 levels and the gang need to search every level for a box of Scooby snacks, at the same time avoiding dangerous monsters and villains from the gang's past. If they find and touch the Scooby snacks, they advance to the next level. They complete level 10 and they're able to return to the real world. Oh yeah, if they get hurt in the video game, they actually sustain injuries. Oh goody. That's the plot for the next 45 minutes. The gang have to traverse all 10 levels, travelling to a multitude of locations and times, ranging from ancient Rome in the Edo era of Japan, to the North Pole, the Moon, and the Cyber City that's really just New York. At the same time eluding the Phantom Virus and various enemies from previous mysteries, like Old Ironface or the Tar Monster, as well as periodical enemies such as a T-Rex in the prehistoric times, or a group of skeletal gladiators in the Roman Colosseum. Fortunately, there are some allies on hand, such as a trapped pterodactyl, Princess Peach from Super Mario, and some rather familiar faces in the final level in the big city. To avoid spoilers on who actually created the Phantom Virus, I won't describe the ending. Let me just say that the movie is still good after 17 years. It still holds up rather well, and it's often regarded as one of the best Scooby-Doo movies. The spot for number 1 is often disputed between Cyber Chase and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. For me, Cyber Chase is still the best. My only serious gripe is Shaggy's voice actor. I'm sure Scott Innes is a nice guy, but I really don't like his take on Shaggy. Until 2017, I thought he was the worst Shaggy. But then I saw Shaggy and Scooby-Doo get a clue for the first time. That TV show is 150% absolute fucking garbage. In case anyone is interested, my favourite Shaggy is Matthew Lillard from the 2002 and 2004 live-action movies, as well as Shaggy's current voice actor, which is awesome.
Like, good morning, dude. Like, Scoop, like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Say what you will about the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, one perfect thing about those movies was the casting of the main characters. The actors did a superb job in the first two movies, even if people think the movies suck.
The only thing I like better than an eggplant burger is a chocolate-covered eggplant burger.
With hot sauce. Ra-cha-cha-cha.
So that's Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. That movie's good, the live-action movies are still good, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue is still bad. Moving on. Now how do I transition from Cyber Chase to the next video? You know, Michael Brandon appeared in Cyber Chase as a gladiator. So I'm going to cover a Thomas and Friends video featuring the other Michael. Yeah, that's all I got.